Hello class, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make the time series plot for problem 2.66, and that's really easy to do in Excel. We need to use the unemployment file, and all graphs in Excel are off of the insert ribbon up top. So what we're going to do is we're going to select our data in the data file. You can see I already have a line graph made here. We're just going to click line, click any one of these, and lo and behold, we have a new graph. So this is your time series plot. A time series plot is just a fancy word for a line graph. You should always think line graph when you're dealing with any sort of time-oriented data. If you want to clean up this graph, you can just click up here on the layout menu. You can do things like turn the legend off. You can alter the axes and the titles through this menu as well. Now, this time series plot, this line graph, is actually ugly, and I don't like it one bit because there's too much information. There's too many values. You got years 2000 to 2008 here, so you got 8 years worth of data, but then you have 12 months within each of those years. And to plot all of that along an x-axis, the horizontal axis, no matter how big you make this graph, it's still not all going to fit. So one way to get around that is to do what's called a pivot chart. And a lot of people wouldn't think to do this, but I'm introducing the pivot table and the pivot chart right now because this is probably the one thing in Excel that you're going to learn you can use in the work world, academic world, you name it. It is a key feature of Excel just to be able to quickly make tables and charts that summarize your information, and it saves you several steps in the process. So we're going to click on that insert menu as well. We see this option here. It says pivot table up top. We want the actual pivot chart, and it's going to ask us what data we want. Excel is usually pretty smart. It'll find all your data for you, and it'll ask you where you want it, a new worksheet or existing worksheet. Always put it in a new one, so click OK. So here's our blank looking chart. Here's our data on the pivot table field list over here on the right. We need it all, and we're just going to start checking it. So this is not the correct graph. So you need to know what you want to do ahead of time. We know that we want months and years, okay, and we're obviously interested in our employment rate. Now this data here, this is the calculated values in the lower right corner here. Since there's only one value per year, month, and rate, it doesn't matter what the mathematical function here is, whether it's the sum or the average. But basically we got a similar looking chart. However, if we make it bigger, you can see it's got a little bit of a cleaner appearance to it. We've got our years along the bottom here, and then our months for each year here. And though it's still not big enough to list every month name, you can see it's got a cleaner display. Now this defaulted to a bar chart, and we didn't want that. We actually want a line graph. So that's very easy to change. In the upper left corner here, it says change chart type. And you could have started with a line graph as well. Just click line, click OK. There's our time series plot, which is really no different than this one. Except now, though, we have the power and ability to make it even prettier. Because what I'm going to do in this particular example, I'm not interested in the trend within each or across months. I'm interested in just the year. So I'm going to uncheck the box for month. Now look what happens. We've basically got a similar looking line graph. However, with that month information being consolidated within the year, we've got a very clean display. I like that. So again, like any other graph, after you create it, this layout tab up top will allow you to do things like add in data labels, add in the legend, take it off. I'm not a big fan of legend unless it's categorical information, and your axis title. So the year here, unemployment rate on the top, or on the left here, and then you can obviously just double click in here and put in a title. And it's done, or a lot cleaner display. So that's a time series plot. There's two methods. You can do the quick and easy through the Excel graphing method, or you can be a little more creative and have a little more control and create a pivot chart. And that's it. Any questions, just ask.